Play that stupid violin like the dying dog you are. You disgusting, low-class trash don't even deserve to breathe the same air as me. Look at your pathetic, bleeding face. I said, get down on your knees and clean my shoes, you worthless peasant. Freeze right there. Do you feel that sudden, boiling anger rising up in your chest right now? Do you feel the absolute injustice of seeing a good, hardworking person being humiliated by an arrogant billionaire? If you're the type of person who refuses to let the fake elite trample over your dignity, I need you to do something right now. Go down to the comments and type this exact promise to yourself. I choose courage. I don't choose to bow down. Type it right now to claim your own power. And if you believe that karma always comes back to destroy the wicked, make sure to hit that subscribe button to join our community of truth seekers. Because what this screaming, hysterical bride doesn't realize is that her entire world is about to end. The quiet, bleeding woman standing in front of her is not just a random hired musician. She is the invisible hand that controls her family's entire fortune. And she is about to erase this bride's empire with a single, calm phone call. But to understand how we got to this explosive moment, we need to rewind the clock back by 3 months. Let me introduce you to Elena. To the untrained eye of the arrogant elite, Elena looks like a painfully average, middle-aged woman who lives a painfully boring life. She spends her quiet mornings in her backyard garden, gently planting organic vegetables with her bare hands. She loves the simple joy of feeding her colorful koi fish in the peaceful pond she built herself. She raises her children with a profound, grounded philosophy. She teaches them the value of relentless optimism, hands-on hard work, and the absolute necessity of financial freedom. She is a woman of her word. When Elena says she is going to do something, she gets it done. Failure does not scare her in the slightest. In fact, failure is just data for her next victory. Decades ago, Elena started her journey with absolutely nothing in her pockets. She was just a young, hungry immigrant trying to survive in a ruthless city. But through sheer willpower, an incredibly fast learning ability, and a deep burning passion for MMO, digital business, and strategic investing, she built an absolute fortress of wealth. She mastered the art of online monetization long before the so-called experts even knew what it was. She cultivated a millionaire mindset focused on personal growth, true financial independence, and silent accumulation of assets. Elena does not need validation from anyone. She does not care about flashy designer clothes, luxury sports cars, or gold-plated yachts. Her true, terrifying power lies in her absolute silence and her massive, diversified investment portfolio. She is a diamond-tier anonymous backer, the phantom investor keeping some of the biggest real estate conglomerates in the country afloat. And above all, Elena loves nurturing young, hungry talent. One of her absolute brightest and most ambitious students was a young man named Alex. Years ago, Alex was just a struggling, broke college student with a brilliant tech idea, but zero funding. Every venture capitalist laughed him out of the room. But Elena saw his fire. She saw his potential. She mentored him aggressively. She shaped his mindset, teaching him how to navigate the brutal world of high finance without losing his soul. She treated him like her own son, pulling him out of his darkest moments of self-doubt. With Elena's heavy financial backing and strategic guidance, Alex went on to build his own massive tech unicorn. He became a self-made billionaire. And now, Alex is getting married. He sent Elena a beautiful, handwritten invitation, practically begging his beloved mentor to attend his extravagant pre-wedding banquet. He wanted her to sit at the head table. Elena humbly agreed, but she refused the VIP treatment. She simply wanted to attend as a quiet observer, bringing her prized antique violin as a heartfelt gift to play a private blessing for her student. But Alex made one catastrophic, fatal mistake. He wanted to surprise his beautiful new fiancée with the identity of his legendary, mysterious mentor on the night of the wedding. He never told his fiancée who Elena truly was. Enter Victoria. Victoria was born with a diamond spoon shoved firmly in her mouth. She is the spoiled, arrogant heiress to a legacy real estate empire that everyone thinks is untouchable. In reality, her family's company is secretly drowning in a massive ocean of debt, hanging by a single thread. But Victoria does not care about balance sheets or profit margins. She only cares about status, absolute power, and crushing anyone she deems financially beneath her. She thrives on this sickening feeling of superiority. For her pre-wedding party, she demanded that Alex rent the largest, most expensive super yacht in the entire Pacific Ocean. She invited a guest list filled with fake socialites, shallow influencers, and loud, arrogant trust fund babies. The yacht was a floating monument to toxic vanity. When Elena quietly boarded the massive vessel, wearing a simple, unbranded linen dress and carrying an old, weathered wooden violin case, the whispers started immediately. Victoria's cold, predatory eyes locked onto Elena instantly. In Victoria's twisted, elitist mind, anyone who does not wear recognizable luxury brands is nothing more than literal garbage. The ocean breeze carried the sickening stench of old money and new arrogance. Elena ignored the judgmental stares. She stood quietly in a secluded corner of the deck, sipping a simple glass of sparkling water. She was perfectly content waiting for Alex to arrive from his business meetings. She admired the beautiful, golden sunset over the water, completely unbothered by the highly toxic, materialistic environment surrounding her. Her positive energy, her inner peace, and her magnetic charisma always made her stand out, even when she desperately tried to blend into the background. But highly toxic, deeply insecure people hate nothing more than a quiet, unbothered soul. Victoria could not stand the fact that this peasant woman was not intimidated by her wealth. She marched over to Elena, her expensive designer heels clicking aggressively against the polished teak deck. She was holding a crystal glass filled with vintage red wine, her eyes narrowed with pure, unadulterated venom. The music on the yacht suddenly stopped. The crowd of elite guests turned to watch the incoming slaughter. "What do you think you're doing, lurking in the shadows like a rat?" Victoria's voice cut through the silence like a jagged knife. The entire yacht fell dead silent. 100 pairs of wealthy, judgmental eyes turned to stare at the quiet woman in the linen dress. Elena didn't flinch. She just offered a polite, patient smile. "I'm just waiting for the groom. I was asked to play a piece for him." Victoria burst into a shrill, mocking laugh. "Play a piece? You? With that piece of junk?" She pointed a sharp, manicured finger at the antique violin case. "This is a multi-million-dollar luxury event. We have a world-class symphony on standby. We don't need some cheap, street-corner beggar scraping away on a wooden toy." Have you ever been in a room where everyone is watching you get humiliated and absolutely no one steps in to help? It's suffocating. If you are watching this and you refuse to be a bystander in your own life, go to the comments right now and type, "I choose courage. I don't choose to bow down." Let that be your permanent armor against people like Victoria. Back on the deck, the tension was unbearable. Victoria's friends, a group of identically dressed, shallow heiresses, started giggling behind their crystal champagne flutes. They whispered vicious insults about Elena's simple dress, her lack of jewelry, the dirt they imagined under her fingernails. Elena stood her ground. She knew exactly who she was. She didn't need a Gucci tag to prove her net worth, and she certainly didn't need Victoria's approval. "Alex specifically requested this," Elena said, her voice completely calm, unwavering. "It holds a lot of sentimental value." The mention of Alex's name coming from this peasant made Victoria absolutely snap. Her insecurities violently boiled over. No one spoke to her like this. No one looked at her with such pity. Victoria wanted fear. She wanted total submission. And this quiet, earthy woman was giving her neither. "You don't get to say his name!" Victoria shrieked, her face turning an ugly shade of purple. "You are nothing. You are the dirt on the bottom of my shoe. I am Victoria Sterling. My family owns half this city, and you are just a pathetic nobody trying to squeeze a few pennies out of my fiancé." Elena just looked at her, a deep, knowing look. She saw right through the designer clothes and the screaming entitlement. She saw a terrified, bankrupt little girl pretending to be a queen. That silent, piercing gaze was the final straw. "Play that stupid violin like the dying dog you are," Victoria screamed, completely losing her mind. "I said get down on your knees and clean my shoes, you worthless peasant." When Elena didn't move, Victoria lunged forward. With a vicious flick of her wrist, she hurled her entire glass of vintage, blood-red wine directly into Elena's face. The dark liquid splashed across Elena's cheeks, soaking into her simple linen dress, looking exactly like fresh blood. But Victoria wasn't done. In a blind rage, she snatched the antique violin case from Elena's hands and threw it onto the hard wooden deck. The latch broke open. The beautiful, centuries-old instrument spilled out onto the floorboards. "You disgusting, low-class trash don't even deserve to breathe the same air as me," Victoria roared. She raised her foot, pointing the sharp, metal stiletto heel of her designer shoe, and brought it down with all her weight directly onto the delicate neck of the violin. Crack. The agonizing sound of ancient wood splintering echoed across the silent yacht. Elena finally reacted. She dropped to her knees, reaching out to save the shattered instrument. As she did, Victoria kicked out, her sharp heel catching Elena just above the eyebrow. A deep gash opened up. Actual, bright red blood began to mix with the dark wine on Elena's face, dripping down onto the ruined wood of the violin. "Look at your pathetic, bleeding face," Victoria sneered, panting heavily, looking down at Elena with pure disgust. "Someone throw this garbage overboard." The crowd of elite guests just watched. Some smiled. Most just looked away, too cowardly to intervene. But then, the heavy, brass doors of the VIP lounge slowly swung open. Alex stepped out onto the deck. He had just finished finalizing the massive merger documents that Victoria's family so desperately needed to avoid total bankruptcy. He was smiling, ready to celebrate with his future bride. Then, his eyes adjusted to the lighting on the deck. He saw the spilled wine. He saw the shattered, priceless violin, the very violin his mentor had played to him when he was just a broke kid crying over a failed startup. And then, he saw Elena, the woman who had practically raised him, the woman who built him, bleeding on the floor at the feet of his fiancée. The smile on Alex's face didn't just fade, it died. A cold, terrifying Victoria, completely oblivious to the apocalypse she had just triggered, turned to Alex with a sweet, innocent, sickeningly fake pout on her face. "Oh, baby," finally, she whined, stepping over Elena's bleeding form to run toward him. "This crazy, homeless stalker snuck onto our yacht and tried to attack me. You need to have your security guards arrest her right now." Alex didn't look at Victoria. His eyes were locked, in pure horror and rising fury, on Elena. "Security?" Alex whispered, his voice trembling not with fear, but with an earth-shattering rage. He slowly walked past Victoria, completely ignoring her outstretched arms. He dropped to his knees right into the puddle of spilled wine and blood. He gently took off his expensive tuxedo jacket and wrapped it around Elena's shoulders. "Elena," he choked out, tears welling in his eyes. "I am so sorry." The entire yacht gasped in unison. Victoria's fake pout instantly vanished, replaced by sheer confusion. "Alex, what are you doing?" she demanded, her voice shrill and panicked. "Get away from that filthy beggar." Alex slowly stood up and turned to face the woman he was supposed to marry tomorrow. He looked at her as if he was looking at a rotting corpse. "Filthy beggar?" he repeated, his voice dangerously low. "Victoria, do you have any idea who this woman is?" Victoria scoffed, crossing her arms defensively. "She's just some cheap, nobody musician who sneaked in here to steal from us." Alex didn't yell. He didn't need to. He simply reached into his pocket, pulled out the multi-million-dollar diamond engagement ring he had bought for her, and let it drop onto the wooden deck. It rolled into the puddle of wine, sinking into the red liquid. "This woman," Alex said, his voice echoing across the silent deck, "is Elena. She is the sole reason I am standing here today. She pulled me out of the gutter, taught me everything about digital business, and funded my entire company when nobody else would. But that's not even the best part, Victoria." Alex let out a dry, humorless laugh. "You see, Elena isn't just my mentor. She's the anonymous diamond-tier investor of Horizon Capital, the exact same investment firm that currently holds 80% of your father's massive, toxic debt. She is the only reason your pathetic, bankrupt family isn't living on the streets right now. The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear a pin drop over the sound of the ocean waves. Victoria's face drained of all color. She looked like she had just been punched in the stomach. "No," she whispered, her lips trembling wildly. "No, that's impossible. My father said our backer was a Wall Street billionaire, not some dirt-covered gardener." Elena finally stood up. She didn't scream. She didn't throw a tantrum. She lived by a simple rule. Actions always speak louder than words. She calmly wiped the blood from her forehead with a napkin. She looked at the shattered remains of her beloved violin, then looked directly into Victoria's terrified eyes. "I believe in giving people the freedom to show their true colors," Elena said softly, her voice carrying an unshakable power. "And you have shown me exactly what your family's legacy is worth. Absolutely nothing." Elena reached into her simple linen bag and pulled out her phone. She dialed a single number. The yacht was so quiet that everyone could hear the faint ringing from the speaker. "David," Elena said calmly when the call connected. "Pull the Sterling family funding. All of it. Liquidate the assets and initiate the foreclosure protocols immediately." A panicked, breathless voice came from the other end of the line. "But Elena, if we pull the funding right now, the Sterling conglomerate will officially file for bankruptcy by tomorrow morning." "I know," Elena replied gently. "Do it." She hung up the phone. Before Victoria could even process the horror of what was happening, her own phone started vibrating frantically in her diamond-encrusted clutch. It was her father. She answered it on speaker with shaking hands. "Victoria!" her father screamed, sounding like a man who was having a heart attack. "What did you do? The bank just called. Horizon Capital just pulled everything. We are finished. The authorities are freezing our accounts as we speak." Victoria dropped the phone. It shattered on the deck, just like Elena's violin. It was over. In less than 60 seconds, Victoria went from a spoiled, arrogant billionaire heiress to a woman with absolutely nothing. Her family's empire was erased. Her wedding was cancelled. Her reputation was completely destroyed. Victoria collapsed onto the hard wooden deck, weeping uncontrollably, desperately clawing at Alex's shoes and begging for forgiveness. But Alex just turned his back on her and gently escorted Elena off the toxic superyacht, leaving the fake elite to drown in their own ruin. Now, I have a serious question for you. Look at the hundreds of wealthy guests on that yacht who stood by and watched an innocent woman get abused. If you were standing in that crowd, knowing that speaking up could cost you your elite social status, would you have defended Elena? Or would you have stayed silent like the rest of those cowards? Be brutally honest with yourself. Go down to the comments right now and tell me exactly what you would have done in that terrifying moment. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you stand for justice and believe that true wealth comes from the mind, not from the clothes you wear.